This is an open letter to the organization in charge of the Tri-5 Nationals. My wife and I attended the Tri-5 Nationals for our first time in this year, 2025, and had a good time. My wife and I aren't strangers to major car shows. It's been a few years though. The last time we went was in the from 1981 to 1985, and that was the Carcraft Street Machine Nationals. That was, of course, originated by Carcraft Magazine, and later they turned it over to Special Events Incorporated for their leadership and continued management. So now that I went to those shows with my original 55 Chevy. It was a two-door hardtop. Actually had been a street racer, and I had kind of rehabbed it a little bit, resto-modded it, if you will. It was my baby for many, many years, for almost 36 years before I sold it. I sold it for tuition for a master's degree and regretted it ever since. So in January of 2025, I bought my two-door wagon and back on the trail for Tri-5 vehicles, and have loved it ever since. Now, after attending our first Tri-5 Nationals, after discussions with my wife and I, we have some suggestions. And now, let me say this is not a criticism of the Tri-5 Nationals. My goal in making these suggestions is simply to make it a better experience for everybody, for spectators, for vendors, and for the Tri-5 owners themselves. And again, please understand, these are just suggestions. They may not be practical, but it's food for thought, okay? The Tri-5 Nationals need a taxi/shuttle service, and we envision 4 to 6 taxi stands scattered around the grounds, and with 2 vehicles per stand. Pick up, show participants, and at their car or wherever they're at, and take them to their destination, whether it's back to their car or from their car to the drag strip or their car to the vendor area, etc., or to the bathrooms. The drivers would be volunteers, and I, for one, will volunteer to take a couple of shifts on Friday and Saturday, driving people where they need to go from one of the taxi stands. There's a reason for this, a couple of reasons that we think this is a good idea. Number one, there are no shortage of golf carts on the grounds. However, if you're with a group, and say you're sharing one golf cart for several people in your group, this would allow you to take the golf cart or not take the golf cart, leave it for the group, and then get your own transportation to wherever you want to go on the grounds, okay? Now, we envision that you'll have volunteer drivers, and these drivers could be recruited from one of the fraternities from Western Kentucky University, or sororities from Western Kentucky University. Now, participants who need a ride could volunteer to make a donation of $1 or whatever they felt was appropriate to that sorority or fraternity's charity of choice. That way, the volunteers get something out of it for their fraternity or sorority, and the participants get a ride from one location to another on the grounds. Now, one reason I think this is a good idea is because I am 66 years old, and I am unable to walk the grounds. I just can't not do it, especially when it's 98 degrees outside and I'm on oxygen, okay? It's just not possible, and there's so much to see, and, you know, not everybody can have a golf cart, right? We know that. This would be an adjunct to having golf carts. It'd be a way for people to get around conveniently for the participants who need to get around. All right. The riders would have to be required to sign a waiver that they would hold the event and volunteers harmless if there are unforeseen accidents or mishap. And the taxi service could be sponsored by one of the major vendors. They could sponsor it. It could be operated locally through some volunteer organization in the community, and especially if it's going to if there's a possibility to raise money for the group's charity. The sponsoring organization could also use those rides to distribute information about their company, about the parts they have, etc. So it could be a win-win for everybody, and especially for those of us who are handicapped and cannot walk the grounds like we could 45 years ago. I'm suggesting this because some years ago when my kids were much smaller, my wife and I went with the kids to the NHRA U.S. Nationals in Indianapolis. Now in Indianapolis, top fuel driver John Force and his family sponsored a taxi or a shuttle service between the parking lot area and the track for people who were handicapped. No charge. If you were handicapped and you needed a ride, they gave it to you. They had several golf carts and they would shuttle you there and then shuttle you back. Wonderful service. Great publicity too for the Forrest family. Suggestion number 2, information booths scattered around the grounds. There are many people I met at the Tri-5 Nationals have been there either nearly every year of its existence or, many of those years. And these guys know the grounds. They know it. But for those of us who are newbies who just decided this year to come, we couldn't figure anything out. The day we registered, picked up our packet, was on Thursday. That was wonderfully marked. We drove right to the site. But when we left the site, we didn't know where the hell to go. We drove around over to where the trailer parking was. We drove around to the spectator parking, and we really didn't know where we were going. And it actually took us a while to get out of there. We never found the show car parking. We did see it at a distance, but I couldn't figure out how to get over there. Guys dressed in orange with info on the back, scattered around major intersections or around the grounds in high traffic areas would be wonderful to have. These guys could even have maps if they, and help people find where they want to go. Now, again, this could be sponsored by one of your vendors who would help people find their way around. And again, they'd be volunteers wearing vests, highly identified. They could even have a table with a sign that said info, help, etc. Another suggestion, improved directional signage at the site. Now, I was able to find the registration pickup just real easy. It was so well marked. After that, my wife and I were lost. Even with the brochure and the map, we couldn't figure out where the hell we were going and got frustrated. My wife said, let's just go to the hotel. Let's just get checked in and enjoy their air conditioning because it was hot. My Chevy wasn't air conditioned. Of course, we had to find our way out, and that wasn't easy either for us newbies. All right, and then this is a suggestion that may or may not be needed. 45 years ago, at the Carcraft Street Machine Nationals, Mr. Gasket Company sponsored a help tent. And this was like a big tent with 5 or 6 open bays. And Mr. Gasket provided tools, jacks, jack stands, and equipment to help for somebody who had a problem with their car. Now, they didn't fix it. They didn't have mechanics on duty for you. But if you needed a place to work on your car, and if you knew what you might need to do to it, they had the tools and some expertise, but they weren't there to fix it for you. And so that had been a service available for several years. And finally, in 1985, my father and I were at the show, and my starter began acting up, and I had to change it. And in fact, that starter was still working fine the day I sold the car some dozen years or so ago. But this would be a great service, again, sponsored by a vendor. It wouldn't have to be staffed with mechanics, just people that would bring tools, jacks, and some equipment to help people that wanted to fix their cars. But this might be a worth exploring as an added value option for people that run into something and need help. And this next one's a big one. It was for me and my wife. We need to improve maps. All right, the mapping of the Beach Bend site was now, if you're familiar with Beach Bend, I'm sure it was great, where it was fine. But for those of us who have never been on the site or haven't been on it for 50 years, at least, it was inadequate. And I don't mean to, rag on those who put these things together, but we could improve it. It could be improved to be much more user-friendly and usable to participants and spectators alike. All right, we need details where the roads are. And some of them aren't named, but we at least know where they're at. I suggest digitizing the map and basing it on, say, the Google map. I'll go further and suggest that it become an app, a Tri-5 Nationals map app for your phone. And that way the map could actually track your location. Where are you parked? And you could, it would show you on the map where you are. And you could track your progress if you were coming in or out or where you were parked. And maybe you take a screenshot and send it to your buddy who's parked elsewhere, and they could find you. All right, once the app is created, it could also include locations for the vendors. Now, I know vendors like to have their same spot year after year, right? Well, mark the vendor locations. If it changes from year to year, but those are just minor tweaks. Even have a list of the vendors, and then it could be hot link, and then you could click the vendor name, and it pops up on the location on the map. This would make the vendors happy because then you can find directly where they're at. It'd make the participants happy because they would have better information about where they want to go and plan where they want to go around the site. And spectators could also benefit too. Now, I know they're paying usually paying for the day or maybe 2 days, but it would make everybody's visit much more usable, user-friendly, especially for newbies like my wife and I. The map had some detail, but a digital map that links to Google location, I can't imagine a more user-friendly, a more useful tool than that for all parties involved. Now, the map should also have all points of interest. You need to know where the campground is, where the exits are, how to get around, where the Beach Bend amusements are, the drag strip, how to get in and out. It needs all that detail. And once you make it the first time, you'll only need to update it annually for each Tri-5 Nationals. Sound like a lot of work? Well, it might be. It might be, but you only have to do it once, and then it's just a matter of updates from here on. And this next one to me is kind of a no-brainer. Tri-5 Nationals needs to create a text message blast. Now, in most cases, you know the phone numbers for all the participants. All right. Information from the organization should be able to be sent out by text message to all the participants. Instead of craning to hear what's going on at the track and hear that announcer, you need to be able to blast that information out. When is something starting? When's the nostalgia drags kicking off? And just name the event, and you can let everybody on the grounds know that this is starting soon and when. Okay, or any emergency or anything that comes up that the participants need to know about, they can know about it instantly through a text message. And I think this would be a huge benefit to vendors and to participants and even spectators. They could sign up for these text blasts too, in getting their documentation. Show sponsors can underwrite the cost of these text messages and maybe even advertise a sale, or you could use it for commercial purposes, right? In closing, the Tri-5 Nationals is a top tier event. It needs top tier tools and features to make it more user friendly and to encourage users to bring their cars and to encourage the growth. And I think this would be a huge way to improve the organization and build on the 10 years of success that the Tri-5 Nationals has achieved so far. You look at what you're doing and look for ways to improve it, to continue to grow. And that's what I want for the Tri-5 Nationals. Had a great time this year, and I think that I'll have a better time next year. And if I can be of any service on any of these suggestions, let me know. All right, guys, thank you for listening. And please, if you have any questions, please contact me. You can contact me at my email, which is jamesebrookesjr@gmail.com, or you can contact me through my YouTube channel. Thanks for listening, guys, and I hope we can make changes to improve the Tri-5 Nationals and keep it growing for the near future. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next year, next August in Bowling Green. All right, take care, and thanks for all the work you guys do to make this event happen. You know, it takes our vendors, takes our advertisers to help fund these things. I understand that, and so let's improve the event for everyone's benefit. All right, talk to you soon. Take care.